One of the other things that we find really valuable, some of the feedback we get that's incredible, is when, yes, you're hearing it from thought leaders, but what about people who are actually applying it right now in the real world of work? So the managing director of eBay, Andrea is here with us today. The CEO of Igloo Software, Dan Latendre. The president of IBM Canada, Dino Trevisani. Thank you for that. Good luck. And then the president of ADP Canada, Holger Kormann, are here. Please join me in welcoming them to our stage. Andrea. And so, a few questions for them. And let me prepare for you right now. I will be coming out into the audience. If you have questions that you'd like to pose to them, prepare them and be ready. I will come around and ask you some questions. But as you're here on our stage with us now, why don't you tell us, what's been your leadership journey? How did you get to be with us here today? Andrea?
So I always wanted to be a leader, but had no idea how I was going to get there. I graduated from university with a medieval history degree, which really doesn't prepare you for a whole lot of anything. And so I did an MBA and a law degree and ended up in finance. Found out that that was the wrong route too. And then landed at eBay and found a company that whose culture really matched my own way of being. And then was very opportunistic in terms of taking roles. And so I sort of circled around a little bit and ended up being managing director, and I've had that role for the last couple of years.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Thank you. Dan?
Yeah, I don't think I ever really inspired but to be a leader, it just kind of happened. And you know, I have another degree, kinesiology, from the University of Waterloo, and figured out I couldn't really do much with it unless I did a lot of post-grad work. But I always loved to build things, and from there came the leadership, and I was fortunate enough to actually work with some great leaders. Tom Jenkins was from OpenText, and we built I think now the largest software company in Canada. But then I got introduced to people like Jim Balsillie, who founded RIM, Dr. David Johnson, former president of U of W, who now is Governor General. And you start being in those circles, and you start to see leadership, different leadership styles, and one thing I did learn is that, you know, how they treated people and how they got the best out of those people really made an impression on me.
Thank you. Dino?
Yeah, I've been with IBM 28, 29 years. I lost count, but you know, I've had, you know, throughout my career, many different jobs, from finance, HR, business operations, sales, etc., and all around the world. And I think that when I started off, I didn't plan to be a leader. I didn't think about leadership, but what really motivated me, inspired me, is the opportunity to develop and inspire people to be their best, and that became so much more rewarding for me. And then being able to continually do that at a bigger scale, you know, from starting with a small team to thousands of people, and having that kind of influence. And I get inspired and motivated by seeing people realize their full potential. And that's been great for me. And here in Canada, we have a great team of 14,000 people, but we have a great leader in Ginny Rometty, and that's inspiring to me to actually learn from other leaders like Ginny on how to transform leadership as the world changes.
Holger?
Yeah, I grew up in Germany and started after university for a large multinational engineering firm, Siemens. Came to Canada. Been in Canada for 15 years now, and worked for Siemens in Canada for a little bit, and then I was heading up a large French IT outsourcer, Atos, and then I joined ADP about a year ago. And what I found about leadership, I always admired people which had two things. They were very passionate about what they do, and they delivered results, and that is something which I still hold very near to my own philosophy, to really passionate but focus on the results. Not one works without the other. And then the other thing which I always liked is, and I was given when I was young, very young, a stage to perform on, and that is something which magic happens when you are given a stage and you are actually allowed to create something. So I do that as well for my team. I try to create stages and to really let them unfold on what's in their mind and combine it with business results.
Wow, thank you. Just this morning on the news, we heard about one of our major Canadian organizations that's having a reduction in force worldwide, 7,500 people, 2,000 in Canada. But what are some of your top leadership challenges that you're currently facing today or that you expect to face in the next 6 to 12 months? Holger, maybe talk to us a bit about that.
Yeah, there's quite a few actually. I think that the biggest transformation right now is that the new generation of workers, they're really looking for an emotional connection with their role. It's not enough to give them a role. They're looking for something deeply connected. They want to be passionate about where they work. They want to have almost like a university campus, like learning environment, and collaboration is natural. So we need to keep up with those desires and give them an inspiring workplace where not just a role is defined, but there's an emotional connection made to what they do in the company. And that is a big challenge to cater to those needs and adapt and cater to what is still your legacy employee base, but also those which are come in and get them all into the same tool set is not an easy thing to do. And then the other thing, particularly at ADP, we are a human capital software firm and service provider. And we are looking for both. We're looking for technology skill, but we are also looking for human capital experts. And that makes it really hard for us to tap into global talent pools because the HR skill oftentimes is a very domestic skill. So combining the global talent pool of technology with the local expertise on how to run HR environments, not just anywhere in the world, but particularly in Canada, that is a skill which is not very frequent, and it's hard to find.
Thank you. Dan, what about your world?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I kind of start with, I think we all forget that the internet really has changed our lives forever. I think we forget that. It's changed the way we work, the way we live, and we see it now in the new digital workplace. It's changed, and me as a CEO and us, I assume there's lots of leaders here, and we have to start to step up and truly understand that the most important asset we have as leaders is our people. And we really need to understand that we are now in a people culture and we have to figure out now that we have to get the most out of our people, but we have this huge generational gap, a cultural gap, that, how do you manage people, for example, that you've never met? How do you manage people who are using different technologies? I have people in my organization and people we work with using Slack, others use email. And how are you getting them connected in a way so that we get the most out of them? So, over the next, 5 to 10 years, it's trying to figure out how we create this new digital workplace, a place that, exudes the culture of your organization, a place that, that's where they start their day to find out what's going on in the company, the place where they go get their work done and they can connect with others, regardless of where they are in the world, what their culture is, or, what age they are. And I'll leave it on this, is that, I have a 16-year-old daughter, and I'll be honest, I have no idea of, how to be a father to her, because it's a generational gap, and, she takes 250 pictures of herself a day. Well, let's be clear, she's going to be in the workforce in the next 5 years. And that's going to be a different leadership style for us in order to make sure that they are empowered and they're actually productive in our own organizations.
Thanks. Andrea.
So I certainly have, business leadership challenges. We're the #2 e-commerce business in the country, and so that brings a number of challenges as well. But for me, one of the things I'm working on is I'm still a fairly new leader, and so trying to figure out develop my leadership skills and capabilities. When I first came into the role, I think did what a lot of new leaders do, which is I wanted to make the team feel confident and secure and really look after them. And so I came in and was very strong and, tried to give that sense, and it totally backfired. Learned really the hard way that, in fact, for me, and I think for a lot of leaders, being open and genuine and authentic and transparent, at least to a certain extent, is what develops trust. And so this is very much a journey for me in terms of figuring out what is my style? How do I temper that style? What's natural? What do I need to learn? And how do I kind of moderate that to get the best out of the team? Because I obviously agree with everyone that this is all about getting the best out of your people.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Dan was talking about, how do you manage people you've never met? When we spoke, you have one-on-ones with your people extremely often.
Yeah, so, this is a bit of a harsh learning curve that I was on, and one of the things that I got in early feedback was that the people were looking for more of a sense of connection from me, and so I'm lucky I have a small team, but I instituted quarterly one-on-ones with the entire team, and I think the first round freaked everybody out. They were sort of like, what does she want to meet me for? Like, what horrible news is she going to give me? And what I do, though, is, now everyone's sort of used to it, is that it's totally unstructured time. So it's up to whoever I'm meeting with to set the agenda for that meeting. We could be talking about their holiday plans, their family, their work, what have you. I do always ask for feedback. I do always ask for feedback on their manager and their kind of reporting structure. But other than that, it's very open time. And I think that has served to create one-on-one engagement and a sense of trust, two-way trust in the team.
Love it. Dino, what challenges are you facing and what are you learning from them?
Well, I'll just start off with the subject of, the digital era where everybody's communicating through different technologies and being connected to your people. I find that there are so many ways to lead your people without actually talking to them, that the biggest challenge I have is to get people to put down devices, put down their phone, and go and talk to each other and collaborate and appreciate the differences. And for leaders to recognize face-to-face what challenges the individual is going through. Maybe it's not coming out in their words, it's not coming out in their emails, but it's coming out in their face. And you need to be able to engage with them and touch that and be able to shape the way they're thinking and feeling so that you get the best out of them. And so I'm really all about encouraging people to engage face-to-face and personally, more than ever before. And we get a lot of efficiency out of technology. But I'd also say that obviously the biggest challenge we face is the transformation in our industry. It's dramatic. It's, IBM's been around 100 years. We've been through this many times. And you really have to get people connected to the why. Why are we doing what we do? And getting them to believe. And that why can be different for every individual. But I find with my employees, we get connected to things that really matter, and they matter to the community, whether it's what we're doing with Watson in oncology, and we get really touched by the individuals we can impact, and the promotion of STEM for young girls. That is the greatest feedback and support I get from my employees than anything else, and they are connecting with that why, and that makes them believe in what they're doing.
Context so critical, right? We don't understand the why. Simon Sinek's been on our stage. He's talked about getting to why. And so, Dan, I'll come to you. Jack Welch said that when you were made a leader, you weren't given a crown. You're given responsibility to bring out the best in others. So what are you doing to bring out the best in your people?
What I try to do is I'm a very practical kind of guy, and so I try to lead from the front. And that's important because you need to be, it's not what I do, or what I say, it's how I do it with you. So as a leader, I'm with my teams, whether they're in the same office or whether I'm working with people who are remote, and showing them and guiding them and mentoring them while I'm working with them. I hope that people in my organization and people that work with me, aren't afraid to talk to the CEO, that they can express new and innovative ideas. I have a philosophy for anyone who comes into my organization. I say, everyone who comes in is a French race car driver. And I get a kind of a confused look. And then I describe it to them. I said, look, when you come to Igloo, what I need you to do is, as a French race car driver, is you get in the car, and the first thing you do is you remove the rear view mirror. Because I don't really care what we've done in the past. I care what you're going to do with us to help us move forward. And as long as I can give the why, you can help me with the how, and we can all then move forward together and not be afraid to bring new ideas into the organization.
Andrea, you seem to be connecting to that.
Yeah, I think the why is critical. So we've got a team of mostly millennials. And what I find is so important to engage them is to allow them a lot of scope and a lot of ownership, but also connect them to the purpose and connect not just once, but on an ongoing basis. So, we publish all of our goals. So everyone knows what my goals are, everyone knows what everyone's goals in the entire team is, and so we can all see what we're working towards, and we're tracking progress on nearly a weekly basis. There goes the water. And I think that kind of both sense of transparency and responsibility and then ownership for execution really does go a long way to engaging the team.
Fantastic. Dino, you're nodding away. What's happening over at IBM?
Yeah, well, I thought, I would comment on, when you're engaging with the people the way you talked about, don't look at the rearview mirror, look forward. I find that creating vitality in your organization isn't, and it's not an age thing. It's just having somebody come in with a different perspective. I do this test with my executives. We have this boardroom, and I said, everybody close their eyes and tell me what's on the wall. We've been looking at the same wall for so many years, and only the new people can tell you what's on the wall, because they come in and they look at things that other people just take for granted or they don't see. We saw that example with the peanut in the water. And that is really what I try to inspire, is people having a different perspective. And you see that all the time, and that's what you have to get people to shake out. And, Jack Welch was one of the leaders that invented the process of categorizing employees, A, Bs, and Cs, and, getting rid of the Cs. The new world is about discovering why the Cs are the Cs and change their environment, understand the differences that they have, and capitalize on that capability. Don't just move them out. And you have to sometimes give them an environment that they see things differently, right? And you need leadership to help encourage that.
So we say in our leadership models is that if you and I have the same thought, one of us isn't necessary. So what diversity of thought are you bringing to the equation? Holger, at ADP, what are you doing? How do you identify your hidden talent and the potential in your organization?
Well, first of all, I think my daughter takes 370 pictures before lunchtime, and she likes 800 others. But
my daughter blocked me.
she,
She actually doesn't exist in the digital world to me.
it's already probably on Twitter what you're about to say, so you may not be up to times. But first of all, I don't believe a talent should be hidden. In an organization, we need to make a vital attempt to identify that talent, and that is done with standard processes and automation and talent reviews, all of that. But I also agree with my colleagues here that it is about the personal conversation. Technology gets you only so much, and identifying them, and performance review and automation of identifying and building talent, but it's really the personal connection. So what I do, my business, I do connect with people. I make deliberate time to sit together, understand where they're coming from, collect their perspectives without a formal agenda in a meeting. And that is really where you find great talent.
Yeah.
So I do believe it is both. It is a talent management process, but it's also the personal dialogue and the identification of those people.
I just wanted to add to that. I think that, reaching out to people is important, especially your direct reports. What I worry about is I think, they're all sitting in the room nodding their head, and I'm wondering, do they get it? Are they understanding this message? Are they understanding the transformation, the cultural change that we need? And I think, Karen, to your point, the way you got to do this is you got to go and have that contact and direct relationship layers within the organization. And that's where you're going to get the pulse of whether it's resonating, right? And if it's not resonating, it's my fault. Like, I'm not delivering the message the right way, and I'm not connecting. And you just can't assume that because you said it, it's going to happen, right?
And so a mantra I would have as well is, I know you understand what you think I said, but I'm not sure that you understand that what I said isn't what I meant. So, Andrea, how is it worth the effort for you to find this hidden talent and bring out the potential in your organization?
Well, I mean, just on that topic, I think as a leader, you have to actually be very careful about what you say. When I first became a leader, I would wander around the hall and sort of lob out what I thought were helpful suggestions, and then everyone would sort of reorient their priority list in order to put my helpful suggestion at the top, which was not what I intended at all, with no discussion of like what the sort of downstream consequences are. So I actually do need to think you have to change. You know, you go from being a manager who is tasked with being a really good doer of stuff to suddenly being a leader, and you have to understand that what you say and how you say it needs to be changed because people react to it differently. In terms of engaging people, I mean, we really focus a lot on hiring for attitude and aptitude rather than maybe specific skills or specific experience. Because what we find is that, what we really want are hungry people who are passionate, who are curious, and they may not have a background that is really traditional. We've got product managers who've got degrees in film. One of our sort of, an employee that comes to mind right now started off with a communications degree, joined our deals program working with sellers to identify inventory, and then put her hand up and said, I want to be a salesperson, and is now our top salesperson. And so that is a path that I love, this kind of circular path, and it's really driven by obviously connecting with her and understanding what she wants, and kind of, but really fundamentally it's about her putting her hand up and having identified someone that we wanted on our team who was hungry and had her own drive.
So we talk about leading in front and having followers, but we also talk in our facilitation about leader goes last. Oftentimes when the leader speaks, everybody just shuts up, Muppet nods, and we go on and back to our day job and do what we need to do. Thought, Dan?
That doesn't happen in my company. It's actually the other way around. Well, maybe it isn't a respect thing, but I actually think it's total respect, is that I'm there to learn from them. And what I try to do in my organization, which is, obviously, 1/100th of the size of my colleagues here, but it starts right from the beginning and about culture. And I need to provide that culture to my leadership team and ensure that my leaders and myself are aligned of how we want the company to run. And are we actually hiring, and are we already ensuring that the people we bring into our organization understand that? So one of the questions we always ask is, what kind of organization do you need to be in for you to be successful? And that's really important because, in our organization, I try to match my corporate culture with my digital culture. And it was very interesting. About a year ago, my corporate culture, the office space, and how we had closed doors, and so we totally changed that because it didn't match our digital culture. So there are no offices with walls. They're all glass, open door policy, collaboration. We're mixing and matching teams together that don't work in the same departments. And it forces people to be more collaborative and working with other people in their organization that may or may not be working on exactly the same initiative. So, and then you'll see an executive, for example, who worked the entire day in the office on the floor, where we have open spaces where I will actually work the entire day out with the rest of a particular organization, whether it's on a particular floor or a different business unit or a different office. So they get to see me in a light that says, hey, I am the CEO, but I play a role just like everybody else, and whether you believe it or not, my role isn't any more important than yours.
I just add to that your business is all about really coalescing the culture you want to deliver through a digital channel. I think it's, an excellent way to reinforce that culture through that consistent digital channel. And that's what I worry about, is that I've got all these channels that people communicate and articulate, and I don't know whether that message is consistent with the culture, our philosophy, our values, etc. And I think technologies like your company can actually make the difference in that regard.
Yeah, and there's another thing that you said, and we were talking backstage as we aligned our answers together. But I do agree that if you truly believe, because we are moving into, almost like 100% digital economy, digital workplace, and so forth. 50% of our staff are mobile. There was a stat I heard the other day, whether you believe or not, 50% of our staff by 2020 are going to be millennials. But we need face-to-face interaction. We're people, and I think the challenge for all of us is, how do we merge together or create that happy medium which works for your organization? How much is digital? and then how much is, face-to-face interactions and working with people directly in the same room?
Well, so Holger, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe while we were aligning our answers, we couldn't agree on the race car style. I like the German race car style, which is a very close look into the rear mirror, because I do believe you need to understand what's behind you to avoid the same mistake. So just looking through the front shield, like the French apparently do, is not working for me, because I do believe that the digital change, particularly, which you can impose on an organization, is very deeply ingrained on what the organization has done in the past. So if you want them to digitalize, and there hasn't been done much in the past, and you don't see it in the back mirror, you're trying to impose it on the organization, it may be too much to carry. So I do believe it is a balance of understanding what's behind, where you came from, but also looking forward and what the organization can endure. The one thing doesn't change is the people aspect in it, but I think you need to have a good understanding of the weight of technology in the past and in the future.
Just one comment, golf clap.
So, just to change things up a little bit then, what the heck? Michael Bungay-Stanier is going to be on our stage this afternoon. He wrote an amazing article for us, which again you can find on our website, and it's called Your Good Advice Isn't Working, and What to Do About It. And so he's one of Canada's top coaches, and we're going to hear a lot about the importance of coaching and leadership this afternoon. Michelle Obama has a simple quote that reads, "Choose people who lift you up." What role is coaching, mentoring playing in your organization? Is it natural, more real-time, or in the moment, or is it planned, Holger? How's that happening?
Of course, most companies have some more of a formal coaching and mentoring program where somebody who's seeking long-term mentorship will have access to that, and we have those programs. I do believe, however, that the ad hoc coaching and mentoring is just as important, if not more important. More and more, particularly millennials, they are short commitment, they want instant reward, instant gratification. So I think coaching and mentoring has to adapt to that, from maybe a quarterly get-together, let's talk about the career, to really a more interactive, on-the-fly, spontaneous coaching along the way in different areas of life and in different areas of the work experience. So I think that's changing, and it's a transition between those two traditional ways.
Andrea, in your world, what are you doing to encourage your people to seek out coaching?
So I think the one-on-ones with me has been really helpful, and now that we've been doing this for a couple of years, that people now come to that sort of forum with coaching, for coaching. But I actually find that I'm not a natural coach, so that's been something that I've literally had to learn how to do. I think I'm better at giving kind of real-time feedback, which I think is certainly helpful and engages everybody. But in terms of sort of more formal, longer-term sit-down, let's do this for a half an hour conversation, I find that to be, and I think it is real work. And so certainly you need to devote time to it, but I think you also have to acknowledge that not everybody is a natural coach, and it doesn't come seamlessly to everybody. And as leaders, as any other people trying to accomplish something, there are things that you're going to do well and things that you're going to need to focus on. For me, the coaching piece has been a piece of real focus, and I think there's this myth of leadership. This you get the title and suddenly you're a leader and everything's going to be great, and you somewhere innately in you know how to be a leader. And what I kind of have bumped into, because I don't think this is something that gets talked a lot about, is that all of the good leaders that I know, when you kind of actually sit down with them and say, like, how did you become, they're all actively working on it still, even if they've been a leader for 10, 15 years. And I think that's another really important lesson to learn in this context, is that none of the people who are doing it really well actually feels that they're there, that they don't have more to learn.
Well, in the Leadership Challenge causes, and Puzner share with us, 70% of people are promoted because of technical ability, but 80% are asked to leave or choose to leave because of a lack of human skill. So what is it you're doing, Dan? You've got some thoughts about coaching.
I think just because you're a great hockey player doesn't mean you're a great coach. We've seen that over and over again. But the way I look at it is, even before the mentoring, and this is a big, big challenge for me, this hits home. My company has grown from 25 employees. By the end of mid-next year, it'll be 250. We've been growing about 70%. And So I look at the mentoring programs and I said, well, the first thing I've got to do before mentoring, I've got to create a great onboarding program, which I've failed at. And it really bothers me, by the way. And how do I fix that? And how important it is, you know, from the onboarding program, from a corporate perspective, to really align the KPIs, the goals and objectives. We call it convergence theory, getting everybody rowing in the same direction. But then the onboarding programs that have to be built within your different business units or departments. And then from then, overlaying that into the mentoring programs into the organization. Like we have the University of Waterloo has brilliant people, and then they come in, but they have a very wide range of knowledge, but their experience is very narrow. And how you can marry those or have them be mentored by someone that is very experienced, maybe from my generation. And so it's kind of a progressive thing for me, and it's, you know, not a quick fix, and you have to build it into your structure and into your culture.
Good news for you, Dan. There's a lot of people from the University of Waterloo here today. Now, there they are. So they'll probably want to see you at the break. Dino.
You know, I liked what Andrea said about the really the emotional IQ, right? And I think you know, we have all different programs to mentor. You know, I have people that I personally mentor at all levels in the business, and all my executives, et cetera, and then we have cross mentoring, and we have our employee engagement teams, so peer-to-peer mentoring. But I think really, what really has to make the difference is having that emotional IQ, like really caring for your people. Like you have to be genuine, and I think that's why the 80% don't survive. Like, you know, I love my people. I get up in the morning and I think every day I got to do a great job, and I got to continually be critical of what I'm doing and what decisions I'm making, so that they're the right decisions, so that they have a good life, right? And they have a long career, and that, you know, this history within IBM continues. And they can see that I have that passion, right? And then the second thing I'd say is you got to be open to criticism. Like, you know, the world is over where you can just tell people what to do and they're going to go do it. You know, you need to encourage all levels in the organization to criticize you and give you ideas and give you critical feedback. I always tell them to be polite, you know, but there are so many mechanisms to do that. Digital mechanisms for feedback, et cetera, but you got to walk the halls. And I find when I walk the halls, I'm very accessible in all the locations, that I have opportunities to mentor and coach somebody right on the spot in a very constructive, positive way.
So what I'm really hearing is we're really talking almost about that engaged workforce. And so what are some of the biggest barriers you're facing right now in regards to getting an engaged workforce, and what are you doing to solve them?
Yeah, the engagement score is measured in HR usually, and you know, it's an important driver of where the general state of the associates, where they are at. I believe the engagement score is really fundamentally influenced by two things. And the one thing is not just to give them a role, but define what the role is meaning to the organization. It is important part to really not just define what the task is, but what does it do? What is the outcome of the particular role? And then the other thing is they need to understand how that role then in the context really supports the broader good of the organization. And then the other thing, what people really want is transparency. People don't want to be surprised. Surprises lead to disengagement, and all of us at any given day have surprises in the bag. We offshore positions, we automate things, and if you're transparent about those things and talk about that and give the rationale to why that is, you can keep a high engagement score even while the workplace is transforming. So those would be my two observations.
This kind of is our sweet spot of what my company does. And I'm going to give you a real life story. So there's a company called Hulu, competes with Netflix, and they launched a digital workplace with my organization. And as we worked through this journey, their number one business challenge was communications, because they felt communications would drive engagement, the right engagement based on corporate goals and objectives. So the first thing that they did was they named their new digital workplace. They called it Huluverse. The second thing they did, every one of their employees are now hooligans. And that's really unique because now they're invested into this organization from a cultural perspective. Third thing they did is they actually created advocates or ambassadors for their new digital workplace, and they're called roosters, right? And you can imagine why. And then they could start measuring the engagement. And the last piece they did, which I thought before they launched, is everyone in the organization was asked to come in the next day dressed up as their favorite character. So if you were a Trekkie, you dressed as a Trekkie, and that went on the photo wall. And so right now, you've created an emotional connection with your new digital workplace, but also Hulu as an organization. And they focused for the first year, and only the first year, on improving corporate communications across a company of about 1,500 people spread across the United States. So it kind of gives you a real-life example that, you have to make these kind of investments, but also ensure that your key stakeholders, which are employees, are bought in and feel part of the solution.
So I totally agree with what's being said in terms of both transparency from leadership and understanding how your role fits into the whole. I also think that there needs to be a sense of real purpose, and it has to be authentic. I think that at eBay we have that in that we are able to enable small businesses across the country to pursue, to be successful. But just because it's there doesn't mean that people kind of feel it. And so in Toronto, at least, we spend a lot of time telling those stories. And I think in Canada, we don't do enough storytelling. Internally in the organization, we spend a lot of time telling the stories of the people who are using the platform and tying that back to the team that isn't doing the marketing team or the deals team or whatever team it is, how they're actually driving some entrepreneur in North Bay's success. And I think that also serves to kind of create that authentic connection and make it more than just your job is to get like this data from here to there, or this line on the graph from here to there. And if you think back to when you were the least motivated, it was probably in a moment where you were being micromanaged and you didn't really know what you were doing, how that was contributing to something bigger. And so I think if you can solve that problem in advance for your teams, that you're halfway there in terms of engagement.
Beautiful. A microphone is about to magically appear through the back curtain. Dino, looked like you had some thoughts to share on this topic as well, did you? And I'm going to come to the audience for questions.
Okay, just quickly, we're going through our employee engagement survey right now. And so all the IBMers out there, And, when I took over the job, we had the lowest employee engagement scores in the world for IBM. I was shocked. That's why I wanted to come back. I'm Canadian. I came back to Canada. And we needed to turn that around. It's amazing when you see the survey going on. You see words in a button, like we analyze the words that are in the survey. And, the words we had before were bureaucratic, difficult, complex, etc. Now we see words, the big words are pride, we believe, innovative, empowerment, like all the words you want to see. I still see some bubbles of bureaucracy and everything, which means we haven't done all our job. And I'll tell you, when you talk about employee engagement, you have to continually challenge yourself, because just because you fixed it last year doesn't mean it didn't change. It didn't transform itself. And your employees are going to keep challenging you to do more and more. And that's what we need to do.
Here's a challenge to you as we're waiting for the mic is, where do you think you spend the majority of your day? Well, for me, it's sleeping. But number two is at work and what you do, and it's part of you. And so I believe employees, regardless if you're at a large company like IBM or eBay or ADP, or you're with a small organization like Igloo, is your work has to matter. And it's our job as leaders to see where you, as an employee, fit into the big picture and showcase the value that you're providing to the organization. I was with a company called OpenText, and it got so boring because the only thing that really mattered when we got to 5,000 employees was what was our stock price, market cap, PE ratio, and did I make any money on my stock options today? Bad model.
Over on your right, folks, we've got a question from the audience.
In thinking about the trail of people that you've impacted over your careers as leaders, can you think of one interaction or one person that you're particularly proud of, and two, your biggest regret?
Was that directed to me? Sorry, I didn't catch that. Okay, yeah, well, there's one individual, I won't mention his name, but it is certainly, I like to think of him as a prototype of what I believe in, which is really passion and results, and that person made it quite far in life, and I think that's an example of what a leader needs to be able to do, right? So I don't believe a leader should tell people what to do, but I like to hire people which tell me what to do, and frankly, what tell the organization how to be better. So I think it is important for you to surround yourself with people which have the potential to outgrow what you do yourself, and that is possibly the takeaway here, not just particularly as that individual, but surround yourself with people where you believe they are possibly smarter, better, faster, and more passionate than yourself, and they will allow you to do your job much better and to lead better.
I think there's nothing more rewarding than having shepherded someone, watch them, coach them, and then watch them leave your organization onto something bigger and better. And that's happened to me a number of times, and I am so proud of those people and where they go, and track their careers. And I have no doubt that I'll be working for one of them at some point. And I think that is incredibly rewarding. I also think, though, that you are the steward of your team, and sometimes that means taking tough decisions, and the people that are not fitting in the team, making the tough decision to cut them loose, because I think that as much time as you want to focus on the top talent and those people that for every bit of effort that you give them, they reward you twofold. You also need to be making sure that you're managing out people who are hurting the overall team.
Yeah, I would just add to that is I feel my job is to help people reach their potential. A lot of people don't know what their potential is. And I kind of have a secret scorecard because I'm a serial entrepreneur and I love building things. My scorecard now, I have 3. So I have 3 individuals from my existing organization that are now CEOs of their own companies. So I'm hoping to get that to 10 before a certain period of time, but it's really allowing those individuals to become leaders in their own organizations.
Right back in the center of the theater.
Yeah, we obviously understand that a big part of leadership is inspiring your people and building great teams, but I'd love all of your thoughts on how do you have that leadership conversation during adversity or when your company has a challenge?
So I think you need to be as transparent as possible. It's a total delicate balance, because often there's things that you actually don't know, right? So you're being put in front of your team and people are expecting answers from you and you actually don't know them, either because they're not knowable or because the people higher above have not sort of cascaded that down. But I think you need to be transparent. You need to manage your own emotions and approach it as a team.
I would also add, during adversity, non-believers will take your business down. And they're the guys and gals at the water cooler talking about how the business is in trouble or they're having, all the issues. And you need to, like you said, Andrea, promote and prop up those that believe, have passion about the business, believe in the business, want it to change, want it to survive and do well. And then you have to seek out those that aren't believers. And by the way, it doesn't matter how talented they are. We've had some very talented people that are non-believers, and if you can't convert them, you got to ask them to move on, and go and enjoy your life somewhere else. But you can't stay in the organization and taint it. And because if you're going to survive as a business through adversity, you need everybody emotionally connected and following the direction that we've all agreed to go in to make it successful.
I would also add that the good news for all of us is there is 100 million different ways of good leadership, right? There's not just one box of leadership. It really depends on the time, on the size of the organization, and the team you're entrusted with. And I find the great news is there's so many examples of leadership, be it quite confident, be it outspoken vocal, be it thought leadership, be it religious about process execution. Leadership can be shown in so many different ways, and I think that's great news for all of us. It is a creative field to make the best out of your personal abilities and match it with the leadership challenge at hand.
And panel, our last audience question is coming right here in the center of the theater.
I just, we've heard a lot today about authenticity, connection, communication, et cetera. And I'm just wondering if any of you can comment on the power of mindfulness and creating spaces of wellness for your employees and how important that is to developing leadership.
Well, everybody's jumping on this one.
I can take it first. I think we have, I think the larger companies, but probably even the smaller ones have go through great lengths of creating a very comforting and inspiring workspace, and in some cases, something which feels like home, frankly, right? Which doesn't feel quite as corporate. At ADP, we have a research institute, one in Manhattan and one in Pasadena, California, and that is a space where we give people the flexibility to do whatever they want. Show up how you want, use the tools you want, and just get ahead. And that's what we do to study the evolution of work. So we place great focus on learning about that, what is a traditional way of working and what can be done better. So it is an important factor for us. But again, I don't believe there's a one-size-fits-all. Creating just a casual zone will unlock the potential. It is it really depends on the individual culture.
Yeah, but I think it goes back to that original statement I made earlier, is that when you're bringing on new staff, you have to figure out what is the culture that you need as an individual to be successful. And does that match the corporate culture that you have at your organization? And so we've done things at Igloo, for example. We have a massage therapist. We have, open zones for collaboration and so forth. But you have to make sure that the employees that you're bringing in match the culture that, one is that you want to have, but also, I have to say this, you can afford. Unfortunately, as a small company, I can't build a rock wall, for example, because Google can, for example. So you have to be mindful of, and are these going to help drive the corporate objectives that you're trying to do for your organization?
Let me take a slightly different perspective. I think that as leaders, we actually need to, the easy thing to do is just go, go, go all the time, right? There's always another email, there's always a problem that needs to be solved. And so building that space for ourselves as leaders to be mindful and to actually think about the problem and to kind of let it permeate and percolate a little bit is actually a big challenge, because I've got a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, so I go home and it's not like it's calm. And so I think that to your mindfulness question, yes, we need to be thinking about how do we create those pockets for the team, but we also need to be thinking about how do we create those pockets of calm and sort of deeper thinking for ourselves.
Yeah, can I just say one more? I agree. The always-on culture isn't a good thing. I'm not interested in having my staff send me emails at 9:30 at night. You need that balance between your personal life and your professional life, and I think that balance for all of us is different, and you just got to figure out, as for me or you, what is that balance?
And so, panel, you have a huge opportunity here today. And so if there was one thing that you would challenge each of these people to go back and do, not think about or try, but actually go back and do, what would that be? Holger, can we maybe start with you and work our way down the line in about 30 seconds or less?
Yeah, I think there's hundreds of different things you can try. What I felt is effective, pick a challenge and pick the biggest challenge you may have in your area, and then take a group of people which are not necessarily directly connected to that particular area of responsibility. Could be new employees, could be taking people from other areas, and let them take a crack at it. You will be surprised what they come back with. So I think the cross-fertilization of solving problems with an entirely different lens may surprise you.
Dino.
I just reinforce going back and discovering your why, right? And then making sure your people are connected with that. And then just something I heard today that I think is very important is, go and find the people in your organization that aren't obviously, the people that you would promote or move to significant opportunities. Go find them. They're there. and find a way to get in touch with them and discover them and give them the opportunities that are going to really make them flourish. Because there's talent in our organization that we're not discovering and we're not finding.
Yeah, I think it'd be, for me, it's pretty simple, is, you know, be the leader, right, that you want to be and that you tell others to, and show by example. You know, one thing for me is, as a leader, I try to be a solution person, not a problem person. So always, you know, when you're asking people to do something as a leader, make sure that you're willing to do that yourself.
So I think that we, as leaders, all have blind spots, and I think one of the best ways to identify those is through feedback, and there's direct feedback, but I think that sort of 360 feedback and survey-based feedback, where you can aggregate comments and see them on an anonymous basis, is a really great way of identifying your blind spots, and then being able to, if you pay attention to it and you actually don't just react to it and explain it away, being able to kind of focus on areas that you need to work on. And I think that's incredibly important as you go down this journey of becoming a better leader.
Panel, thank you so much. I mean, bringing practical experience to life, thank you.